Om Shanti. Welcome to today's episode of Masters of Change. The best time to change is to change before you actually have to, because then the control lies with you. But once if the change has the control, that's when you start to see the troubles. So to help us adapt to change in a better way, today we have with us Brother David from UK. Welcome, brother.
Thank you.
How are you doing?
I'm doing good, thank you. It's fantastic to be back in India again.
Yeah. Can you share us about the experiences and how did spirituality hit you, and at what age did you feel that there is a need of spirituality?
As I was mentioning, since a very young age, I've just been very active.
Yeah.
So I was into all kinds of sport, football, cricket. I was quite a good wicket keeper. Tennis, table tennis. So I was very active. So the idea of sort of what I thought sitting quietly in meditation wasn't particularly appealing.
Yeah.
But I got interested in spirituality probably when I was about 15 or 16. It was quite young.
Yeah.
I just started reading a few spiritual books and things. But my real, I think, impetus was when I started to train to be a dentist. And I was actually one of the youngest in the year. So I was quite young. And the thing with that is that in the college, they teach you just about everything.
Yeah.
Except how to deal with your feelings and your emotions.
Correct.
So I could pass the exams okay, and I could do the work okay, but you know what it's like in a dentist. It's not everyone's cup of tea, and so you're dealing with other people's fears, plus your own lack of confidence, because I was quite young.
Yeah.
And I experienced quite a bit of stress, and so that's when I thought I'd really like to start looking at something that could help with that.
So that's when you felt the need of meditation and to be peaceful and relaxed while at work.
Yeah, I felt the need for meditation, but also I think it needed to be something that was spiritual, so that it was a bit meaningful. And also, as I mentioned, because I was very active, particularly in sport and stuff, most types of meditations are sitting quietly with your eyes closed. So, can you imagine? Would you like to be treated with a dentist with his eyes closed? I don't think so.
Never,
I was looking for a meditation practice that wasn't so much a technique, but something that I could incorporate as like a state of mind into my work. So this is where the Raj Yoga meditation that the Brahma Kumaris were teaching I felt was very helpful.
Did someone tell you about it, or did you find it somewhere?
My wife and I were in Scotland, in Edinburgh, during the Edinburgh Festival time.
Yeah.
And we'd been going to a spiritual community up in Scotland for some years. It's called Fintorn. It's like a New Age community. So that was where a couple of years previous we'd been introduced to things like spiritual things.
Right.
Because we were both quite young. We were at that time under 20.
Correct.
And so we were going back to that community when we stopped in Edinburgh, and there was an introductory talk on Raj Yoga meditation advertised, and we went along.
Wow. So I want to know, were you religious before that? Did you believe in God?
That's an interesting one. My wife and I are actually from a Jewish background, but if I'm really being honest, for me, I think my religion was sport. And I much preferred to be out playing cricket or football on a Saturday morning than going to, say, the synagogue.
Yeah.
And my father also, he had a ladies' hairdresser shop, and Saturday, which of course is the Jewish holy day, the Sabbath, that was his busiest day, so he had to work. But since I was very young, he always used to say to me, it's what's in your heart that's important, because God will listen to what's in your heart. So I used to sort of talk to God saying, well, I don't want to go to the synagogue, if it's okay. I much prefer to
play sports.
Be playing sport. So that was one thing. The other thing is that the approach to God through the particular religion that I came, the concept of God as the vengeful God, the jealous God, and I couldn't relate to that at all. In fact, it really put me off.
Correct.
It didn't seem logical that a father would create children in order to give them basically misery.
Yeah.
So that didn't appeal to me at all. But then when I was fairly newly qualified at work, and I was very young, and I was seeing maybe 20, 25 very difficult children. They were the children that the other dentist either wouldn't or couldn't treat from challenging cultural backgrounds, behavioural problems, nervous. It was really challenging. And I remember just going into the toilet, and I remember putting my head in my hands and said, oh my God. It was very interesting. I just had this experience of this, well, the only thing I can describe is like a point of light. It was like a golden light. It just sort of came down and just sat here. And I felt so peaceful. I've never felt a peace like that in my life. And it lasted for days. And I was absolutely desperate to know what this...
This was before you went to Ajura meditation?
This was before, probably about 6 months before we came across the Brahma Kumaris. Right. And then it was very interesting coming to the Brahma Kumaris, and of course, I liked the very basic ideas of being a spiritual being, a soul, but I was a little bit wary of God because of all the concepts.
Yeah.
But then when it was explained that the concept of the soul or the spirit and of God was just light, so no physical form, but just beautiful, benevolent, peaceful light. That seemed okay. It seemed to fit because actually it fitted. I'd experienced that. And if I'm being very honest, I was a bit reticent. I liked the idea of the soul and the meditation and the practical things, but I was wary of this idea of God for some reason.
Yeah.
But when I came, I started to have a lot of very, very beautiful experiences. Very gentle experiences of this connection with this sort of being of light. You know the experience when you're, I don't know, it's like sports day or prize giving, and the child is there and the parent is kind of looking at them. So they can't say anything, but that love, that energy is kind of going out towards the child. So I had this experience that there was this kind of like presence, this being, very quiet. And it felt as if that kind of love and peace was kind of directed at me. It was quite subtle. And I felt as if that being knew me better than I knew myself. So it happened a few times, and I thought, oh, it's probably hypnotizing me, or it's just my imagination. Yeah. But it kept happening. Okay. And then I realized, maybe, as had been explained to me in the sessions, that the idea of a soul or a being that is not human, but is kind of beyond. So I thought, okay, well, I'll experiment with that idea. Yeah. And it just seemed to work, and I got that very nice feeling and like connection. Yeah. So it wasn't like a concept of God, it was a feeling. It was very pleasant, actually.
Correct. What you experience is sometimes unable, you can't put it in words. So I think you are explaining it really nicely. I mean, I can feel that, what you experience. But I want to know, how did it help with your work? Did it calm you down while you were at work?
Yeah, because I think, if you ask anyone, would you prefer to be peaceful or stressed, happy or depressed, you know what you're going to say. So it did feel as if being calm and peaceful was my nature. So how it helped, because the meditation was really more, it was like I was told, you sit in meditation, but you develop like a meditative awareness, which you could bring into action. So I sort of trained myself to have a little bit of meditation before we start, and then I found there was a lot more concentration. I was able to focus, because obviously when you're working with young kids, when you actually get around to doing the the dental work, I had to work pretty quickly. And I found that I could work faster, I was more focused, I was more concentrated. I didn't get upset with my nurse, I didn't shout at her like some of the other dentists would do. So I was actually calm, but I was working very quickly.
Wow.
And this, I think, I mentioned when we were speaking earlier, there's something which is quite popular, like being in the zone, or this state called flow.
Correct.
And that's quite often when there's the sports people or musicians, or and you're actually, like in a sporting setting, you're actually working very hard, running or going hell for leather, but your state of mind is very calm, it's very peaceful.
Correct.
In fact, when they've done I do the brain waves, they found that the brainwave patterns when people are in a state of flow are very similar to this type of meditation, and they sort of correlate to peace and love, compassion. And I found that really interesting and very intriguing, that I could be in that kind of peaceful state, but when you're in a lot of activity.
Correct.
Because that then made this meditation really practical.
Correct.
Otherwise, just sitting.
You got married, and then after your marriage, you came across Raj Yoga meditation. So I want to know, how did your relationship change? Did your relationship change? Did it stay the same?
Yes, it did change. I mean, we'd been going out since we were quite young, actually, since we were teenagers. So we'd known each other a fair amount of time. But after we got married, the relationship, I mean, we always had a good relationship anyway. But I found after we started meditating, your vision of each other changes. So you start to see the other as a real person, as an individual, and not as someone who kind of, belongs to you. You know what I mean? Like in a relationship.
Right.
And what I found was that it enabled me, and I think my other half, to develop as individuals, so that instead of in a normal relationship, like a half times a half is a quarter, you actually had something to give and to offer, rather than being in a state of neediness.
Right.
So it made our relationships a lot smoother. And it was lovely to be able to, we were lucky we came to this together.
That's wonderful.
So we could sort of meditate together and such like.
Did it ever happen, because everyone's growth is different, did it ever happen that you and your wife were growing at different levels, and then because of competitiveness or whatever you call it, someone had to take care of the other person, and then how did that go?
I mean, one of the things that is very clear with the Brahma Kumaris teachings is that it's to make you into an individual. So like some people think meditation makes you all the same, like clones. Actually it doesn't, it's the opposite. It brings out the best in you. And I think naturally you're individuals, so even though we were very close as a couple, I started to see my better half as unique and as an individual, and therefore I actually had greater respect for her, which I think previously there was a lot of respect, but it moved on to a different level. And I think it's a bit like, a couple of wheels on a car. We didn't move at different speeds, but because of that relationship, you would help each other and encourage each other. So it was very pleasant, really.
Would you say the love increased?
The love increased.
Yeah.
And it also became spiritual.
Yeah.
And the essence of love is giving,
Correct.
not taking.
Correct.
But in order to give, you ought to be full.
Yeah.
So like I said before, when you don't really know yourself, you're not full, and you're having to take from situations and people. Whereas we both found, because we both went into this quite deeply really, that we were both feeling full and content in ourselves, and so it was just like a natural, the relationship just became very natural.
Right.
And I would say the level of giving and harmony was good.
Yeah.
For us, I don't know about other couples, but
That's wonderful
it
to
worked
hear.
good for us.
You must have experienced a lot of lifestyle changes as well.
Well,
The things which you were doing before.
yeah, I think, the thing is, both of us had started to do some different types of meditation. So we were both interested in spiritual things.
I want to know, how was it different? How Raj Yoga meditation was different from the other kinds of meditation that you came across?
I think before I came to, because Brahma Kumaris, I think I must have had a garage full of spiritual books.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah.
Since I was about 15 or 16, I was reading one book, another book, another book, another book. So I'd got a lot of information. But it wasn't clear. It wasn't concise. Whereas I found with the ideas of in the Brahma Kumaris, very, very concise, precise, clear explanation of what the soul is, what God is, how the consciousness worked. And I thought, wow, this is quite deep. It's very insightful, but it's very simple. And I always felt if something was true, it would be simple and not complicated. So, Raj Yoga was simple but deep. The ideas were very clear and all-encompassing. Gave a context to meditation. I liked the people. They seemed genuine and authentic. And the other thing, that it was free. I always felt if something was generally spiritual, people wouldn't be charging for it.
Right.
So, and then for me, I just thought, well, I'll give it a try, and it worked. So I'm quite pragmatic, and I thought, it's working, so carry on.
So at what point, you said you didn't believe in God, at what point did that perception change?
God has got such a bad press, in a sense, in the West, and it's connected to religion, and the whole thing about religion causing conflict and wars, and I found through that experience that I was sharing earlier, it wasn't that I found God, but I just felt, after studying the ideas, I particularly liked the teachings of Brahma Kumaris. They were so clear, and we started to listen to the daily readings, and most of the questions that I'd had, that I was trying to find answers for through all different philosophies and reading all the books, slowly those questions gradually became sort of answered. And after some time, I realized, I don't think I'm searching anymore.
Wow.
I felt as if I'd found something that was, that I'd come home to.
Yeah.
And then I started to think, wow, these ideas, these spiritual concepts were so clear and precise and so beautiful. I started to think, wow, well, where would they be coming from?
Yeah.
So I thought the source of those qualities and the source of all this information, this wisdom, must be coming from a very wise person, which is like God. And they remember God as the intellect of the wise.
Yeah.
And so I think I fell in love with the ideas and the teachings, and then slowly I started to realize that all these beautiful ideas that were giving me very beautiful experiences must have been coming from that wise one, that beautiful one. Yeah. And then I slowly started to consciously think, maybe this is God.
So it happened gradually with experiences.
For me, it happened gradually. Yeah. And I wanted it to be authentic and real. Correct. Because I'd read so much, and it's very easy to take on board ideas just because you hear them, but I wanted it to be a real experience, which it has become. Yeah. And I find it very surprising because I thought I was an atheist. Yeah. And then at university, my friends said, no, you believe in something, but you don't understand it, so you're agnostic. So I was upgraded to agnostic. And then when I came to Brahma Kumaris, then gradually, I wouldn't say it's like I believe, it's more like it's a feeling, it's your own personal experience.
Correct. You also came across a music band that used to,
Oh, only that my wife and I are originally from Liverpool. Yeah. And actually, when we were very young and sort of looking at spiritual things, obviously we were looking at meditation. Of course, the Beatles. Yeah. That was the time when they were going off to see the Maharishi. I can remember. But at that time, it was interesting because meditation had that kind of idea of kind of sort of drugs and rock and roll and all that. Like the Beatles, all right, smoking, and so it had that kind of image of. But I found that wasn't really the case. But the wisdom that comes out of India, which obviously the Beatles were looking at when they went to see the Maharishi, that wisdom is very ancient, isn't it?
Yeah. When was the first time you happened to come to India?
Oh, we came very quickly, very soon. I think we came across the Brahma Kumaris, and I think it was August '76. I seem to remember it in my memory tracks. And in December, we came to India. So our first trip was 1976. That's quite over 40 years ago. Right. Coming every year since then, sometimes twice a year, except just for COVID, which obviously we couldn't come. So I think I worked out I've probably spent about 3 or 4 years here if I add all my visits up.
How has the time changed? Because now you come since so long, and what do you think is the need of the hour today?
It's interesting. People want experience now. They're tired even of too much talking. And I found here, even after so many years coming, the atmosphere here, where people have been meditating for many years, is very powerful. And that's something that I'm taking away, even on this visit, many, many years later. You sit in some of the meditation places in the original place, close by to here. I was there this morning quite early, and just, you could almost cut the silence with like you're slicing a cake. It's so deep. And I was thinking, yes, this is what I need. Because back there, we helped to run Brahma Kumaris activities. And we're quite busy, actually, even though we're teaching meditation, it's quite busy. Yeah. But to come and sit in that silence, and I thought, yes, this is what I need, just to connect to that vibration of silence and peace, and just almost like, just feel yourself. And I think when we're doing that, then people who come now, they can feel that, and they can have some kind of experience, a little bit like I did. Yeah. And then you want to know what that experience was, like I did. Right. And then the ideas of the Brahma Kumaris teach, they're freely available, and will give you a very clear idea how to recreate those experiences so that it becomes part of your life.
Correct. What is the service like back there in UK? I'm sure it must be different, a lot different from the service here in India. So if you can tell us, since you're involved.
I think it's similar in the sense in India everything's just like mega. Yeah. Everything's big. But I think in England we have about 40 Brahma Kumaris centers. But now, words like peace, meditation, God are becoming very common on Google, the God of Google.
Yeah.
And so people are actually looking for these kind of things. And actually, even the word meditation is becoming quite common now. Quite a lot of the top sports people, like Lewis Hamilton, the F1 driver, he meditates. So meditation, particularly mindfulness, is becoming quite the norm. It's talked about. But like I was looking for, I think people are looking for some direction in their life, and they're looking for something that is meaningful. So the Raw Yoga gives that, teachings give that, as well as a very, very good sort of technique of meditation. It gives a lot of, puts meaning back into people's life, and I think a lot of people are looking for that. Otherwise, they see what's going on in the world, they see what's going on in their own life, and wonder, oh, is this it? Is this how we're supposed to be?
Yeah.
But I mean, in terms of what we do, it's fairly similar. We do a lot of online courses and public events.
Right.
But I think we do try to make sure that there's time for people to have some experience. So there's time for some meditation, so they can feel something. Because when you feel something, you won't forget it. You'll forget the words.
Yeah.
But when you feel something, you think, I felt good. Like you must, when you come here to this campus, it's different to downtown Bombay, it's very different.
Very different, correct.
And that atmosphere is created by the activities and the thoughts and the words of the people. So this is what we try to do, we try to arrange our programs so that people go away with some experience. And then if they're inclined, either sooner or later, they'll follow it up.
Right. How important do you think, since you mentioned thoughts, how important do you think thoughts are in playing a role in what happens outside? If thoughts are going on inside, does it have an impact on what's happening?
Yeah, because thoughts are everything, really. Because thoughts are the seed. So whatever you say, whatever you do, all your interactions, it's all connected to how I'm thinking. And of course, thoughts produce feelings. So if I want to feel peaceful, I've got to create those kind of thoughts. And so thoughts are really important. And thoughts are coming from a living energy, the soul. So, I had to dissect a dead body as part of my training. And I remember being in the anatomy room that people have left their bodies for medical work, but there's no energy there, there's no vibration of life in a dead body.
Yeah.
And so what I learned through Brahma Kumaris, that thoughts are coming from a living energy, which of course we would call the soul or the consciousness, the Atma, whatever you want to call it. But that is missing in someone who's passed away.
Yeah.
And so understanding who I am, like who is thinking, which is the basic understanding in Brahma Kumaris, is absolutely key.
Well, this was such a lovely conversation with you. The time only permits us to discuss this much, otherwise I would have loved to continue this conversation.
Thank you.
And you set a perfect example for a lot of couples who are looking to join the spiritual journey, but there are misconceptions around the organization.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of misconceptions. But since your relationship has grown, so I'm sure.
Well, I just quote the divorce statistics to people if they ask that, because actually, I don't know in India, but in the UK, the divorce statistics are very high.
Yeah.
And my wife and I are still happily married after 45 years. Yeah, just give
the love has just grown.
Yeah, you give it a shot.
Yeah.
And you find it helpful, and I think it'll improve your relationships no end.
Well, thank you for taking out time and speaking to us.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure.
Okay, thank you.
Om Shanti.
Om Shanti.